That day, I was going for a picnic in the forest with my friends from school. I was so excited that I hardly slept the night before. We were going with our teacher to enjoy the autumn and play games in the open air. With these thoughts in my head, I hurried to get ready. I had no idea then of the extraordinary thing that was going to happen to me in the forest. When we arrived in the forest, we started the day with a lovely breakfast in the picnic area, after which our teacher told us we could go and play. We immediately jumped up and went off to play games. Our first game was dodgeball. We were totally immersed in the excitement of this game when the ball suddenly rolled off into the trees behind me. I ran after the ball. I kept running, but the ball kept rolling away from me through the trees until finally I was able to catch it. That was when I noticed a brown bear staring at me. For a while, we looked at each other in astonishment. I was thinking that I should be scared, but the bear realized this and said, "There's no need to be frightened of me. I'll be going into hibernation in a few days. I just wanted to talk to someone before I sink into my long sleep." I felt a little unsure, but that didn't seem a bad idea. I had never had a conversation with a bear before. In fact, this could be the most extraordinary thing ever to happen to me in the forest. "Of course, let's do it. I'm Arya," I said. The young bear seemed pleased that I introduced myself. He introduced himself, too, and told me his name was Kibo. He pointed to a cave behind us and told me that in a few days he and his mother would go into hibernation there and that she was out looking for food to store before they went to sleep. Kibo said that he had been playing just outside the cave while waiting for his mother. He added that they would sleep for about 5 months when they went into hibernation. I was really surprised to hear this. "What? You're going to sleep for 5 months without waking up?" I exclaimed. Kibo opened his mouth and did an enormous yawn. I have to say, he did look a bit scary when he opened his mouth like that. But apart from that, he was quite charming. From the way he yawned, it seemed that he was already starting to feel sleepy. He smiled and said, "Oh, I'll wake up every now and then, of course. I'll eat some of the food my mother has been collecting, but yes, I'll spend most of the winter sleeping." The bear world really fascinated me. I told him that I was preparing for the winter too, and that only the other day Mom and I had picked out a thick winter coat for me. When I had finished speaking, Kibo seemed a little sad. I asked him why he looked so melancholy. He looked at me with wistful eyes and said, "Arya, I wake up when it's spring and nature is awakening. When the summer is over and autumn arrives, I go back into hibernation again. So you see, I've never really known what it's like outside in autumn and winter." I had a brilliant idea to cheer Kibo up. I could tell him how I spend the autumn and winter months. If you like, I can tell you how I spend those seasons. You might find our winter preparations interesting, I said cheerfully. Kibo was happy to hear this. "Great! Go on, Arya. Tell me. I want to know everything," he said. I took a deep breath and began by talking about autumn. As you know, when autumn arrives, our country gradually starts to move away from the sun. That's why leaves begin to turn yellow and fall off the trees. the nature all around us becomes yellow, red, and brown. Kibo interrupted. That's true, Arya. Look, the leaves have already started turning yellow. Yes, Kibo, they will turn even more yellow and eventually fall off the trees. Just then, a flight of storks flew over us. Look, Kibo, those are storks. They migrate to warmer climates when the weather starts getting cooler, just as you hibernate in the winter. We both waved at the storks, and I continued with my explanation. When the winds get up, the rainy season begins, and the weather starts to get colder. We humans wear thicker clothes. In fact, we carry an umbrella or wear a raincoat most of the time because the sky is usually cloudy. When I said, nature starts preparing for winter in the autumn, Kibo interrupted me. There's one thing I'm really curious about, said Kibo. Perhaps you know, Arya. Where does the sun go in the winter? The sun? It doesn't go anywhere. It hides behind the clouds. And when the clouds collide, they create thunder, I explained. Wow! So that strange noise I hear from inside my cave must be thunder, exclaimed Kibo. My explanation about autumn was over. Kibo was now waiting with interest for me to relate how we spend the winter. Winter comes straight after autumn. In our climate, the winter lasts 3 months, the same as autumn. With the arrival of winter, the weather gets even colder and it snows. I love the snow. Everything is pure white. We make snowmen and have snowball fights in the snow. Snowball fights? That must be very exciting. My favorite game is climbing logs, said Kibo. It wasn't hard to tell he enjoyed playing games. Because it's so cold, we get out our warmest clothes, and we often dress in layers, I said. When we go out, we have to remember to wear scarves, hats, and gloves so that we don't catch cold. There were still a lot of things that Kibo wanted to know about how we spend our winters. He said